fair opportunity to share their vision, their priorities, and solutions for the future of Medical Lake. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, followed by questions on issues important to the community that have been submitted prior to tonight, as well as questions that have been dropped in the basket, combined with unbiased questions that I got to develop to bring to tonight's forum. So the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, as well as a 2-minute closing statement. There will be no rebuttals, but we do ask for respect from both our candidates as well as our audience tonight. We can all agree on that? Yes. All right. Well, let's get started then. So by computerized random drawing, we will be... I forgot to bring a coin. I was going to do rock, paper, scissors between the two to go first, but we did have a computerized random drawing to see who would go first tonight. So we will have our opening statement first from current Mayor Terri Cooper, who will have 2 minutes, followed by former Mayor John Higgins with 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, go right ahead. Sorry.
Time starts now. First of all, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to come and hear about what's happening in our city and to really hear what the candidates have to say. It's important. It's your civic duty, and I'm so glad to see the engagement. It's fantastic. So I ran my campaign this time on promises made, promises kept, because when I ran for office last time, I went to every door. And so I don't just have an open door policy, I come to you, and I've been to almost every door this time. But there were some reoccurring things that happened. Dissatisfaction with the policing, and we'll get into that, and we'll see if there's anything left at the end to share there. Youth rec programs. Coaches were mostly parents. They complained about never having what they needed, shirts, pictures, and those kinds of things, and there was a lot of disorganization, so I really wanted to invest in our park and rec program. They felt there was a lack of transparency, and they didn't really know what was going on in City Hall, and they wanted better communication, so I set out to do that. There was low morale among staff, and so that's been important to me as I work to bring, hire great people as openings came, and we have a very cohesive staff that really cares for one another. Also heard complaints about code enforcement, the weeds, the junk cars, the garbage. It was just out of hand, and so the kind of no teeth, no change is what I kept hearing, and so we do have a commissioned officer now, and I hope we'll talk more about that during the segment tonight. Waterfront Park, it wasn't safe. People didn't want to go there, and it seemed like only people from Spokane came with their dogs and their drugs and their alcohol, and that we couldn't enjoy our own park. And so Waterfront Park has been on my list. See if I can get my page to move. There were concerns about water and this idea that there were only 7 hookups. And I'm going to talk about that later if I get an opportunity, but that was falsely reported to the state of Washington, and that was corrected through our engineer, our water purveyor, and Department of Ecology to set that correct. There were concerns about the industrial growth happening out by Amazon, and that was one of my main concerns is if we do not get involved regionally and get partnerships and relationships with our county commissioners, all the other cities, and the business owners, that we're going to have Amazon right on our back porch and all the other industrials. So we needed to be part of the conversation so that life doesn't just happen to us and we wake up one day and go, that really is awful.
And that's 2 minutes. Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Thank you.
And now, former Mayor John Higgins.
Well, for those who don't know me, John Higgins, I'm former mayor of 12 years before Terri became mayor. I'm conservative. When I took office in 2006, we had no money in the city of Medical Lake as far as extra money to spend on anything. Thanks to the city council and the employees who took limited amounts of raises and stuff, we paid off $2.5 million worth of loans that we had. We bought new fire trucks. We paid off a couple other loans that we had. We also bought fire trucks. We bought new equipment for the maintenance, dump trucks, grader, all that stuff was a one-time purchase. Didn't put us in debt. The council did a great job in keeping us financially set. Like I said, we didn't have a lot of money. It took quite a while for us to bail ourselves out. Great employees. Terri also has some great employees working for herself now. don't expect if I get elected that would change, but you'll see a difference in what I do versus what Terri does. Terri likes to be up front when everything is accomplished. I'm not that person. I want the people that do the job to get the credit. That's how I am. I'm a people person. I've always been that way. I've worked at Eastern State Hospital for 25 years, working with people. I coached for 28 years in the city of Medical Lake. I deal with people all the time, and that's just how I am. So if you're looking for somebody that wants to be out front and taking credit, you're not looking at me.
So our first question this evening comes under the vision category, vision for the community. What is your vision for Medical Lake at the end of your term? So in 4 years, what do you hope the city looks like, and what are your top 3 priorities to achieve this vision? And we will start with Ms. Cooper.
Okay. So my vision is to create a vibrant, alive, beautiful downtown core. I really want to focus on economic development. I want to invest in our parks and our trail system. I think that we have the city of Medical Lake. Medical Lake is our crown jewel. Protecting the environment is #1 priority for me. Improving the parks, improving the economic development, staying fiscally sound. We also are still out of debt, but also we have a great deal of infrastructure to take care of. So for instance, the sewer pipe that goes right along Medical Lake, I had to go find funding. It was $1.2 million to replace that pipe. It was 75 years old. It was patched together with lead and goosenecks. And had we not gotten that one-time funding that was ready to burst sewer into the lake, it runs at about 95% capacity. So I'm really concerned about the aging infrastructure. And so continuing to get that grant funding for the aging infrastructure. We have more money in the bank than we had when I started. And so all the improvements you see were paid for with grant funding. And then we also reinvested our money into the state investment pool, so we get another $50,000 a year for that. And my philosophy is that you create revenues by reducing expenses and increasing revenue streams. And so I would like to see an RV park at Waterfront Park, now that we have that. That will become a revenue stream that can support our parks and rec programs. And so I don't want to grow, I want to improve what we have and take those things that are valued and can be revenue generating and tuck those in to our beautiful environment. So we don't change our environment, but we do have amenities that people will come and enjoy. So mom and pop restaurants, the parks, the RV, and those kinds of things are really what I'm looking to add.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
So I'm kind of realistic. I've been here long enough to know that back when I was a kid here, we had 4 gas stations, we had restaurants, we had all kinds of stuff for people to do here. As time has gone by, Everett Heights has gotten bigger, Cheney's gotten bigger, Spokane's gotten a lot bigger. We have Walmart, we have Costco, we have Amazon. So people are not going to move here to have a job to make this town big and elaborate as Terri would like to see it. I would like to see it stay the way we are. Older people can be able to afford their homes and not be taxed out of them by just continued growth or whatever we decide we want to spend money on. I think we spend way too much money. I think we spend $300,000 to $500,000 every 2 weeks from the city. It's nice that we have that kind of money to spend, but that's not something that can be consistent from now on till whenever. I want to see Medical Lake safe. Right now we only have the police department 7 in the morning to 7 at night. Well, when I got the police department here, we had full time, 24 hours a day. To me, crime happens at night, it doesn't happen during the day when you have a lot of officers already here, county sheriffs here during the day already. So safety is paramount. The fire department is a good thing now. We have them 24 hours a day. Before we were missing 80% of our calls. We changed that and went to District 3. All that was happened after when Terri got elected. But the process was already started by the council that I was on. So I think we think similar on some things, but not even close on others.
Thank you. And speaking of budget and financial sustainability, Medical Lake's benefited from grants funding new projects, but residents also worry about the long-term costs. How will you ensure that new projects, gifts, or infrastructure investments remain financially sustainable? Mr. Higgins.
Well, whatever grants are available for Terri will be available for me, so there'd be nothing new there, but it's what we want to spend the money on and what kind of grants we will get. Infrastructure is always, Medical Lake is old, so water, sewer, all that stuff's going to eventually have to be replaced. Those grants are essential. Grants to pave the streets and stuff, we got grants, TID grants when I was the mayor before. We didn't chip seal, we paved. And if you've been around the chip seal areas around here in Medical Lake, the ones they've done, at least the one in front of my house, I've got more gravel in my driveway than I got on the street. So those kinds of things need to be paved, not gravelled. Again, we need to get back to full-time sheriff's department.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Would you repeat the question?
Medical Lake has benefited from grant funding and new projects, but residents also worry about long-term costs. How will you ensure that new projects, gifts, or infrastructure investments remain financially sustainable?
I think, first of all, getting the grant funding, the TIB grants is something that's kind of cyclical throughout the region. All cities get a small portion from the state every year. You kind of scratch around to see what you can get. As far as grants go, the $2.2 million that we have, we went and got those. The city of Medical Lake had never received this Department of Commerce grant as far as they could tell. They did not have a grant number. We had to apply for that number. And they were falling all over themselves saying, gee, it's about time Medical Lake asked for something. We've been wanting to help you. And so I think we're getting in that cycle where we are replacing. When you talk about the scrub seal, we did that because when you looked at our TIB map, we were the only city in eastern Washington that was completely red because every road needed to be repaved. So this was a $750,000 grant 2 years in a row where they would come and do the scrub seal. That preserves the road for 10 years. And then my goal in the next 4 years is to create a sustainable repaving plan so we can get back to having paved roads. But there's no plan. There was no plan. We just fix what breaks. And so everything I do, I want to have a plan. And so I think that's probably the most important thing to me is that we get things on it has a life. Everything we do has an end of life. We need to know what that end of life is, and we need to have a funding source so we have the ability to replace those things when they get to their end of life.
If you had to make tough choices in the budget, what would be your top funding priorities, and what areas might you reduce or delay if necessary? And we'll start with Ms. Cooper.
So my top priority for the budget is to continue those infrastructure things, like I said. The other thing that we have is a capital improvement plan. We also have a strategic plan, and we have adopted a new vision and a new mission for the city. So all of those are guiding principles. When we go to the state legislature and we say, here's our capital improvement plan, over the next 10 years, here's what we want to do. If a specific funding comes up and we've adopted that as city council, we can go ahead and ask for that grant funding and come back, and then those things will end up in a cycle of improvement. And so I think the top priority for me is to stay on top of that, the capital improvements, because that's really the big dollar things that you'll see. I'll talk more about the police department later. There was a system and a reason and outreach as to how we got there, but I'll save that for a later question.
Mr. Higgins?
Repeat that.
Sure. If you had to make tough choices in the budget, what would be your top funding priorities, and what areas might you reduce or delay if necessary?
Well, my top priorities would first be public safety for one, and then being financially sound would be the second. When I was in office before, Terri has twice as many people working for her as I have for me. That saved Medical Lake from being broke at one time. So making sure people have a job and not being laid off because we're over budget, to me, is very important that people don't suffer because we mismanage our money.
Thank you. Public safety has been talked about quite a bit and debated quite a bit as well. Law enforcement coverage in particular, some support restoring a 24-hour dedicated deputy, others favor the current arrangement. What is your approach to public safety staffing, and how will you balance effectiveness with cost? We'll start with Mr. Higgins.
Well, it was about $1.2 million when I left office for a full-time sheriff's department. We didn't have a lot of money then, and we still managed. It's amazing to me how we can buy a house down off of Craig Road, or not Craig Road, but Brooks Road, and spend $400,000 on a house, but yet we can't come up with $600,000 to have a full-time police department. There's something wrong in the way we're looking at. We have a school district who has a resource officer. That was we got when we were in office the last time. So we do have somebody here in town during the day, but at night there's nobody here. Terri went and got Phoenix, which is a private outfit, to be down at Waterfront Park to watch people from graffiti. Well, graffiti, and these guys are also packing weapons. So where's the liability in that? To me, if we can afford Phoenix, we can afford a full-time security service.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Law enforcement coverage has been debated. Some support restoring the 24-hour dedicated deputy, others favor the current arrangement. What is your approach to public safety staffing, and how will you balance effectiveness with cost?
That's a great question. So when I went door to door on my first campaign, people were dissatisfied because we had one officer 24 hours a day that were bored out of their mind. We got the most inexperienced people that were assigned to Medical Lake. They didn't want to be here. We also had an agreement in that contract that said mutual aid. So anytime the bell rang and anywhere else on the West Plains and the Spur, they were gone and they weren't here. And you know, if you made the calls, and I had so many complaints, there was an hour response time. I had a home burglary, it was an hour response time. I had my house caught on fire, 42 minutes. We've already talked about the fire department. Public safety is important to me. My career was in criminal justice. And so I absolutely love law enforcement and the keeping power and the safety power they have. You talk about Phoenix, the sheriff's office themselves contracts with Phoenix. They're highly trained, they're the best around, and having those extra bodies in the park. As far as the cost of $600,000, not even close. So what I did is, I was only in office a few months when I realized that contract was coming due at the end of 2022. And so you have to give a year's notice. They had written into the contract something really goofy I'd never seen in all of the contracts of my entire career, that you had a 2-year transition period, and this sheriff's office had to give you permission to end the contract. It was ridiculous. I reached out to Airway Heights. I said, I think that we want to contract with you. I talked to WCIA. I had already written the budget, and I shared it with some of the council members before. That was 5 years ago. It would have cost $1.2 million just to stand it up. And so anyway, I was looked into it, and WCIA said, if you start your own police department, litigation expenses are so high, we will not insure you. You want to stay with the sheriff's office if you can. I kind of kept that in my pocket. Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich came out and he handed me a letter, said, I hear you want somebody else, we cancel you. I said, well, we're looking to see all of our options, and I researched every option. First, I looked to get our own police department. Couldn't afford it, couldn't get insurance with it, went to Airway Heights. We considered that, and then Ozzie came back to the table, Sheriff Knezevich, and we had a very candid discussion about we need community policing. I know what
Ms.
community
Cooper,
policing looks like.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, actually, I'm going to move to the next question because we've had several submitted questions, and then the next couple of questions tie those together regarding growth, parks, and land use. So with the gift of land at Waterfront Park, what are your plans for development, maintenance, and community access? Also, very importantly, how will the city fund ongoing costs? And we'll start with Ms. Cooper.
Fantastic. So we have had a 50-year lease with the state of Washington, and that 50-year lease was $250. So about 2 years ago, there was a state law that passed that said any state land now has to be leased at market value. We got a bill for $45,000 a year. We already have in our budget for the last 50 years maintained the park. It was our job, it was part of the agreement, it was supposed to be a low impact use of land for parks and trails. And so we already have it in our budget. We have a parks maintenance budget. So the impact, when we went to the state of Washington and I said, you know, in 1889 we gave you 80 acres, we need them back. And they kind of giggled and said, well, actually the time might be right for some of that conversation. They were going to give us $1.2 million to buy the park. And then it was a budget cycle crisis. They said, we're just going to transfer it to you. It's a gift. Here you go. And we're going to give you $100,000 closing costs. It costs us zero, and going forward is net zero impact. It's in our budget. It's been in our budget for 50 years, and we maintain our park, and we have great park staff. So we want to create some revenue streams in that park to help fund some of the activities and the maintenance and the safety things that we want to put there, like cameras, and I'll talk more about that later.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, with the gift of land at Waterfront Park, what are your plans for development, maintenance, and community access? And very importantly, how will the city fund ongoing costs?
Well, like Terri said, there's money out there that's available for whoever is in charge. So my idea is for the park is it's a great place for family outings, use of the beach and everything, ball fields, whatever. My idea is to get with the school district and see if we can't go to Olympia and try to come up with some funding to turf most of these fields here, both for the school, both for Medical Lake, and start working on conservation for water. So if you think one of these days we're going to run out of water, we need to start looking forward and looking ahead to what we're going to do to preserve this water. And so with the school district and the city, I think we can come up with ways for irrigation, cut some of that back, do the parks the same way, and get a lot of tournaments and stuff down. We used to have tournaments down there all the time. We don't have now. We used to bring a lot of people into the community. And so if we can get that back going again, plus what goes on with the school district, I think that would be a better option if we work together with the school district.
Thank you. The downtown vacant property ordinance was designed to spur economic activity. Has it been effective? And what changes, if any, would you make to strengthen the downtown revitalization? We'll start with you, Mr. Higgins.
So the policy's always been in effect where, you know, you really don't have a clear way to tell somebody how to deal with their own property. I can't come to you and tell you I don't like how your fence is up, or you haven't mowed your yard and you got a car sitting out front. One thing you can do is do away with the cars, and if they're not licensed, you get rid of them. The buildings are falling apart. We're trying to get somebody to do something with them. The policy needs to be changed, and Terri's working on that, which is a good thing. We need to do away with those older buildings, but I don't know what else is going to be in and take that spot. But it would be nice if they were gone, leveled off, and looking better for the city.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. The downtown vacant property ordinance was designed to spur economic activity. Has it been effective? And what changes, if any, would you make to strengthen the downtown revitalization?
Yeah, that's fantastic, and that's really one of my top priorities. So I brought that vacant building ordinance because I had read it somewhere, I think in British Columbia, and it's other places in the United States. So it's true, you can't just walk up to a landowner and say, you know, I don't like the way your property looks, get out of here. It doesn't work, I'm gonna fix it. You can't do that. So what do? You change the law and you create incentives for people to begin to manage their property better. And so code enforcement is one of those that will help manage property better. But the vacant building ordinance actually has caused 4 buildings to sell to somebody else. You're going to see a lot of movement happening now, and it does encourage it. What it does is it says if you have a vacant building, you register that with us, and we are going to tell you what the sign looks like, and you tell us who do they contact. Is it for sale or lease? We send our building inspector in there. He does a full inspection, and so when someone comes in to look at that building, it's posted on the wall. Here's all the things you have to do to get this building up to code before you can even move into it. And that has caused some ripple, and people are like, I don't want to work that hard. I've just been sitting on it. It's a tax write-off for me. 4 buildings have sold. And so that will continue to happen, and we're going to make this a downtown vibrant place where it's walkable. We have cute little mom and pop shops. We do not want big box stores. They wouldn't come here anyway, but we cannot compete with corporate dollars. So mom and pops have to compete with mom and pops. And then we need a variety of those things. So we'll see as people come in and they try their wares, and we're going to revitalize the kitchen. We're going to have a brand new commercial kitchen, and we're going to use that as a test kitchen too. And I already have a whole list of people who want to come, and we're going to do Friday night dinner. So there's going to be a new restaurant in town every Friday night here soon, and you can come and try out the different things. And who knows, maybe you'll love one of them enough that you'll say, would you please come and stay here all the time, because we want to eat your food every day. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. But I do have a plan and a vision. I have a master's degree in business. I do understand how all of that works. I understand marketing. I understand incentives. And I think this is the best path forward to clean up our downtown with vacant buildings.
Thank you. Speaking of economic development and community identity, how can Medical Lake strengthen its small business community while competing with the larger neighboring cities? What strategies or incentives would you support? And we'll start with Ms. Cooper.
Thank you. When I first came into office, it was very clear to me, and I worked in Cheney, I worked in there, I sat on the bench as a judge, as a commissioner in both, for all three cities, and so I know the communities very well. We don't compete with our community members, our fellow communities, so we complement one another. We're all distinctly different, and that was one of my goals, is how do we create an identity of who Medical Lake is? What is our identity? We thrived when we were a resort community, and we need to look and act like a resort community, but the new and improved model of resort community. But Cheney has the college, Airway Heights has the casinos, and the big box stores, and we're not the same. There's nothing to compete about. I've been working with STA for 4 years now to say, but you're great about connecting us to Spokane, but you're not doing good at connecting us to each other. Some people live in Cheney, work here, work in Airway Heights, and we want to flow. We don't want to go to Spokane. We want to do all of our shopping and restaurants and go to the new water park in Cheney and all of this stuff. And when you want to get on a paddleboard and a kayak, you come here. So we're different. And we are working, the three cities are working together to complement one another and to promote one another. And so that's really been a beautiful change in the West Plains. I think that there's more unity and more understanding, and talking to those other mayors about what's your identity. If you had to, could you tell somebody in 2 minutes who you are and why people would want to come and see you? And so, anyway, having some really good conversations about that.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, how can Medical Lake strengthen its small business community while competing with the larger neighboring cities? And what strategies or incentives would you support?
Well, first of all, it comes down to everybody in this room, whether you want to support them or not. Do you want to go to town and do your shopping, or do you want to try to save some money when you go to town and do some shopping, or you want to spend a little bit of extra money here in Medical Lake? It's been that way for years, where people get up and go to Spokane because it's close, or they go to the base because they're in the military, they go to Costco, whatever. But it's got nothing to do with me. It's got everything to do with the public. If you want to support the people and keep them here, keep businesses open, you have to do your part, period. It's not up to me, it's not up to Terri, it's up to all of us who live in this town to support each and every business that's here. They struggle, and whenever time we go to town and buy a hamburger somewhere else, or don't shop at the grocery store, that's on us, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Kind of piggybacking on that community identity, another one of our audience questions submitted tonight. What is your vision regarding the youth in our community? And we'll start with you, Mr. Higgins.
Okay, well, as far as youth goes, I've been a high school coach here in Medical Lake for 28 years. I coached 7 years at Reardon. I coached football, basketball, baseball, volleyball. The youth is what's going to keep this town moving forward. We have a great school district who works hard to keep our kids educated. My kids went all through school here. They're all highly educated through college. The youth is what's going to keep us going here. we're a city that if we can't do something with the school district, who's one of our biggest employers, then we're hurting. And that's why I keep saying we need to do something with fields. We have a hard time getting kids to turn out because our fields are not up to what they should be. If we get turf and stuff, people see this, the kids will see, hey, the school district thinks about us as well as what the money that a teacher makes or whatever. But we need to do something after school for kids who don't have a computer. Maybe set up a learning deal for them to do their homework. Do something for the younger kids I think the school does. They have a deal at the grade school who they can drop their kids on. But those are things that we need to do. The families struggle when they have to do child care. So let's make more happen with the school districts. Kids are great. Without the kids, we're nobody here. We're nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, what is your vision regarding the youth in our community?
So I'm a proponent of the youth in my community. I think it starts with the family unit. When we started Reimagine Medical Lake, it was like, and I remember being poor with 3 little kids and being able to go and do something free that we could all enjoy. And that was the vision of Reimagine Medical Lake, is how do we create community events that don't cost families any money and their kids can come and enjoy everything that everybody else does, and it's free. That was the crux of the vision there, and to see after 10 years the families that come and the joy they have at the Winter Festival, at the Fall Festival, at Founders Day, and it gives the children a sense of identity that when they grow up, you know, they're like, I remember how fun it was. That's what I loved about Medical Lake from being a kid here. We don't have to wait for the school district to do things for us. That's our job. We have a Park and Rec program. They are maxed out. We are adding new programs. Every season we add more and more programs. Our revenues are climbing. I said we're either shutting it down because it's so failed, or we're going to invest in a new program. You should thank your city council. They bought on the vision, and it's happening. 3 years in, we're about halfway to funding, and I told Glenn, I said, your job is to fund yourself, and in 5 years, you need to be self-sustaining. So we're watching that closely, but he's doing it. We have more kids signed up for our programs now than Cheney or Airway Heights. First time ever that we beat them. Why? Because we love kids, we're investing in our community, and we know what we need to do, and we have a vision on how to do it. So we're already doing after-school programs with the school. We're already working with the school and the coaches about having a feeder program. And you know, we have pretty terrible high school teams that don't do very well, and it's been that way for a long, long time. It's like, what can we do to train these kids? I was told when I came here, I said, why don't we get some professional coaching? Why don't we get some training for the coaches so they can do better? Oh, these are just Medical Lake kids. They're never going to go on to be like in the NFL. I'm like, well, how do you know? Look at Cooper Cup. You know, it's like, you have, yes, the skill and the talent is here, but you know what, you invest in kids like you think they're gonna be pros, and they'll feel like pros even if they aren't. So love of family, love of community, and supporting everything that has to do with getting kids involved in those healthy activities. That's my goal.
Thank you, and that seems to be a pretty common theme, not just here, but across the nation. When you have strong families, you have strong community, and providing for those in the community is important as well. In order to sustain that growth, or even kind of press the gas pedal on it a little bit, how do you propose to continue making this community desirable for new businesses? We'll start with you, Ms. Cooper.
That's great. I think the commercial kitchen, putting that in, we used $300,000 of ARPA dollars. Those were not your tax dollars. And we had another $100,000, well, about $80,000 that we invested in that. It'll be done in about 60 days. That's going to be huge for our community, like I said, to have that test kitchen. Everywhere I go, and I sit on boards all across the state, and I'm involved in the Association of Washington Cities, and I see a lot of people, and I travel a lot, and I meet a lot of people. And I'm always promoting my town because I think it's the best thing that ever happened, right? And I love my city, and I'm always promoting it. Whenever I meet a business owner and they're successful, or I try to go to the, you know, the little mom and pops or the little hole in the walls. I'm like, this is excellent. If you really want to thrive, you should come to Medical Lake. And so even with the farmers market, and we had the cooking contest, all of those that were involved in the cooking contest want to come and host those dinners here and see if maybe a restaurant here would be viable. So I think that that's our sweet spot, is the restaurants. You know, when people come to play at the park, fish, you know, kayak and all that other stuff, or they're over on Silver Lake, or they're running the lake, or they're on their bicycles, whatever, they want to eat, and they want to come and get something to eat, go out and look at the water and go, this is peaceful, this is beautiful, I just feel like I really went somewhere special. So I think that's how we attract the businesses. We know who we are, we know what we have to offer, we know what people want, and we make sure that that's who we're attracting to come.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, how do you propose to continue making this community desirable for new businesses?
First of all, let's get realistic. Things have not changed in this town for quite a few years. I'm talking probably 15 to 20 as far as new business coming in. Again, the city has to support whatever comes in. If we could build a Taj Mahal, if we don't do something to help that business out, it's just not going to work. We don't have any new business coming in. Nobody's come in since Terry's been mayor. Nobody came in hardly when I was the mayor. So we can sit here and try to figure out how to do it, but it takes money, and we've got to tear down all these old places to open up some space, but it's probably not even going to happen then. What do you think would come into Medical Lake? An insurance place who did office work would be a great thing to come into Medical Lake. A lot of people would have jobs. Another grocery store is not going to come in. The grocery store that's here does not want somebody else to come in. The hardware store does not want somebody else to come in. It's those kinds of things that slow development down. So we can sit here and dream all we want, but somebody's not just going to come into Medical Lake and be coming into Medical Lake, period.
Thank you. Moving into city staffing and governance, attracting and retaining talented staff is essential to city operations. What steps would you take to improve employee support, retention, and city management culture? And we'll start with you, Mr. Higgins.
Okay, this is kind of a good one for me, because when Terri was first running for office the last time, she always complained about my city manager not living in the city of Medical Lake. Doug lived in the city, worked for the city of Medical Lake for over 20 years, and she would like for him to be fired so that somebody who lived in Medical Lake could be the city administrator. Well, when she became the mayor, she hired a guy who's a really good employee. He's a good guy, but he didn't live in Medical Lake. But she ran on that, promised to get somebody living in Medical Lake. He didn't move into Medical Lake until 4 months ago, just prior to being through the election. So you lose a lot of good talented people if you're going to narrow it down. That person's got to live in Medical Lake when that guy might have a family, or she might have a family, and not want to move her kids out of that school district. We're going to limit that because they don't live in the city of Medical Lake? That's absurd.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, attracting and retaining talented staff is essential to city operations. What steps would you take to improve employee support, retention, and city management culture?
Okay, well, since the door's been open, I'll go there. What I ran on was, it wasn't so much that he didn't live in the city of Medical Lake, it was that we had a law on the books for so long that required the city administrator to live in Medical Lake. And when he took the job, the law also said that you could waive that, and the city council gave him a year or something to move to town, and he never did it. All I said was, if it's a good law, you live by it. If it's a bad law, you change it. That was one of the first laws I changed, because it was a bad law, it was a stupid law, and because you're not going to attract the top talent like I attracted in Sunny Weathers by saying we're going to find all of the talent we need right here in our 1 square mile. No, that's ridiculous. And so I approached staffing the same way that I approached small businesses. People I worked with in the past, like our finance director, Koss Ronhold. He was so brilliant when I first met him. He was just a kid, and he was working at the state auditor's office. I'm like, you need to come to work for me. This is a career. You're from Medical Lake. You graduated from Medical Lake. Sunny Weathers, my city administrator, graduated from Medical Lake. All of my staff in the front office all graduated from Medical Lake or live in Medical Lake. And so I love people who love Medical Lake. the farthest, I think I have one person that lives in the valley, and he worked for the city of Airway Heights for 15 years. And then the other person lives in Cheney, and she's worked in Cheney for the last 15 or 20 years. And so I'm not recruiting from around the world or something. No, I love local people too, but I know how to attract talent. I've been hiring people for 25 years in my career. And when you hire somebody into the legal field, they have to be a top shelf people. And so that was my goal, and that will be continued. When we have a vacancy, I'm going to go and recruit the people that I know and watch for that talent and try to attract them to come to work for us.
Thank you. New question for both of you. How will you ensure that residents are informed and have input in major city decisions, such as budgeting or large projects? Can you give one example of a decision you would commit to making with robust public input? Ms. Cooper?
Yes. We make every decision with robust public input. Right now, we're working on our comprehensive plan. We have to do that every so often, sorry. And so we're doing public outreach now. We didn't have to do it. We could do what's been done in the past and just have the county do it for us. Here, cut and paste it from everybody else's and make ours look like the county, and have one meeting where people come and put a couple sticky notes on the wall and say, ta-da, we have a plan. No, we have been doing public outreach for the entire year. Every time I have a decision to make, I usually appoint a commission. We had salary changes, we appointed a salary commission. We wanted to improve our park and rec program, we created a park board. We have more community involvement on boards and commissions than we've ever had, at least as long as I've been here. And I'm really proud of the work that's been done. The fireworks thing is a perfect thing. You know, it's like every year we get to hear people come in and tell their list and bring their baggie of stuff, and you have the people who hate it and the people who love it, and they're always at odds. And all I've heard for years is, well, why don't you put it to a vote? Okay, so I did, in an election year. I took that risk. You want to know why? Because I want to know what you think. And it's an advisory vote, and then your council has to make a decision. Not my decision. The council's your legislative body here. They can change the law. And so you better be voting about how you feel about fireworks, because you want to know, I want to know what you think. Everything I do, I want to know what you think.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, how will you ensure that residents are informed and have input in major city decisions, such as budgeting or large projects? Can you give one example of a decision you would commit to making with robust public input?
One thing would be the year-end budget, which is always an open meeting for people to come attend. So that they realize what's going on in the city of Medical Lake financially, as well as anything else that might be happening. Newspaper was another good one. We used to have a Cheney Free Press was always at our council meetings. Now we does letters to the community. We did letters to the community. We did stuff on the internet. There's plenty of ways if you want to find out what's going on in the city that you can find out. You can come in the office. I have an open door policy. You can walk in and see. People came to my house. People called me on the phone. So if you want to know, there's ways to find out. Don't blame the city if you can't figure it out, because somebody can always help you out.
Thank you. Regarding emergency preparedness and resilience, after the Great Fire and other regional emergencies, residents have raised concerns about preparedness. As mayor, what steps would you take to improve Medical Lake's readiness and resilience for future emergencies? We'll start with you, Mr. Higgins.
Well, first of all, bring in somebody that can talk about the vegetation and stuff around people's houses and stuff, get that cleared out. Help them to get that stuff cleared out. Don't just abandon them. There's a lot of people that would come out and help. FEMA, Mercy Management, people in Spokane, they would always available if you wanted to talk to somebody. Wetlands people will always come out and talk to you and help you out if they can. The Grace Fire was something that I took everybody, broke everybody's heart. 250 homes were lost. There might have been a lot of things we could have done to mitigate that if we were thinking ahead, but we don't think ahead until after it happens. So it would be up to the city and the county to help everybody out. Ask for help if you need help.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, after the Great Fire and other regional emergencies, residents have raised concerns about preparedness. As mayor, what steps would you take to improve Medical Lake's readiness and resilience for future emergencies?
Well, I'll tell you the steps that I've already taken. So we have put together a hazard mitigation plan that was just approved by FEMA. It was so well liked that the Association of Washington Cities wants to turn it into a template. We'll be teaching the other small cities how to be prepared, how to look for your vulnerabilities, and to prepare on how you would mitigate those things. If the fire came from this way or that way, what's your evacuation plan? Do all your buildings have generator backup, large generator backup? What are you going to do when your internet goes down? What are you going to do when your phone goes down? And so all of those things are vetted out in this plan, and we're working on that. I also became highly involved at the federal and the state level, and I still am. I was at 2 meetings today with the Wildfire Caucus, which I've been asked to join. I'll be attending the insurance commissioner. There's a new insurance commissioner. She's invited me to come and speak next week at the state of Washington. And then there were FEMA folks also that had invited me to participate in how we're going to change the laws and the recovery part. It's also important to me that we create long-term recovery groups in every county. We didn't have one in Spokane. We had to stand one up. We stood up that 501c3. It's now 2 years old and is functioning. We did case management. We built 8 homes in 1 year, unheard of. Even Spokane Home Builders was like, oh my God, how'd you do that? You do it with volunteers. So we're looking to change laws like waiving procurement when you're under an emergency response recovery. So there's a lot of policy changes. I won't bore you with that now. There will be more to come. But policy change, staying engaged with your local officials, your state officials, your federal officials, and knowing what your vulnerabilities are, and then you get those projects in your capital improvement plan so you can go and get the money to get it fixed so you're ready for next time. Another program is called FireWise, and that's something that insurance companies are really going to be working with DNR, and that is an outreach that will be coming soon. So all of these are already happening so that we can be better prepared. We know statistically and scientifically, if you've had one major disaster, the fire, you're like so many more times likely to have that happen again. It just happened to start at that place, that time, that day, but the rest of the topography still looks very similar. So we are at risk and we need to be ready.
Thank you. Beyond big projects, residents often care most about the day-to-day basics: roads, sidewalks, sewer, water systems. What will be your top infrastructure priorities, and how will you balance new projects with maintaining what we already have? Ms. Cooper?
Like I said, it's having a plan and knowing what funding is available and working at a cadence and a pace that is funded and deliverable with the staff that you have. So that's my approach. All of the roads and sidewalks and water systems and all of that, they're in that capital improvement plan. We know what needs to happen. It was mentioned earlier too about reclaimed water. It costs about $1 million a mile to put in what's called a purple pipe project. There's been a lot of federal and state funding available for that. That is drying up. It's going to be harder to get, but I think that it's but going and looking for having that program ready and going, we'll probably have to go to the feds for that. The focus of the federal government right now is return on investment. And so when we can show a return on investment, put a white paper and a plan together and know what we need, then we can get the funding for it. But you have to make sense. You have to have a plan.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, beyond big projects, residents often care most about day-to-day basics: roads, sidewalks, sewer, water systems. What will be your top infrastructure priorities, and how will you balance the new projects with maintaining what we already have?
Well, first of all, going back to water again, the water issue is always a problem. And like I said earlier, our infrastructure is old. Most of the Medical Lake is under old water and sewer pipelines. The thing about the reclaimed water is water that comes out of your sewer treatment plant, it will flush back down into your water system, and then it generates back through your soil and comes back up as regular water. 99% pure coming out of the sewer treatment plant. So put it back in. I think Airby Heights is already doing that. Getting the old every time we tear up a street, we need to put in new water, sewer, and as we go along with that plan, which is in our comp plan, we replace that, and as we can afford it. We're not gonna be able to afford this at the rate that we need to, because the money's not there. But we just need to keep trying to get it better as we go, without costing the city and the taxpayers an arm and a leg.
Thank you. Intergovernmental and regional cooperation are often vital to especially small towns. Medical Lake doesn't operate in a vacuum. How would you strengthen partnerships with Spokane County, nearby cities, or Fairchild Air Force Base to benefit the residents here? And we'll start with you, Mr. Higgins.
Okay, I'm a firm believer in regional work. We did it with the county, we did it with the fire department. We need to share the money. I mean, you're already paying tax money on the fire department and the police department, so you need to share that money so that it's not a big burden on everybody else. Regional, anything regional will help you out financially. So if we can do more, like with the school district as a region, bring in other, like we worked with Airway Heights, we worked with Cheney on regional things in the past. We worked with Spokane on the police department. We worked with District 3 and the fire department. All those things are important. That takes care of your public service, which costs you all money in the end.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Medical Lake does not operate in a vacuum. How would you strengthen partnerships with Spokane County, nearby cities, or Fairchild Air Force Base to benefit the residents here?
So I fear that for decades we have operated in a vacuum, and that was one of my concerns. I set my goal to reach out to all of our county commissioners, to all of the other city elected officials, to our state legislators, to our federal delegation. And I'll tell you, when the Gray Road fire hit, it worked. We had 1,000 people show up within hours, and it wasn't because they had to be here, they wanted to be here. STA, their drivers said, we're going to Medical Lake. And I looked out, and Sonny and I were standing near incident command. It was like a war zone, you know that. It was probably the closest thing to war I'll ever manage. And I looked at Sonny, and there's assets everywhere, going door to door. They're dispatching people. And I said, look at all our friends. And they came because they knew us, and they wanted to help us. And it was fantastic. You know, I don't know of any other mayor in the history of this town that has, the governor has my phone number and I have his. The federal delegation, I have their personal cell phone numbers and they have mine. The county commissioners, I meet with them often. They know who I am and they know what I need. And every time I meet with somebody, I'm like, hey, and remember, we still need those loop roads down there. We need to get water, you know, the West Shore Silver Lake, you know. And so all of these things is like, they know what my mantra is going to be, and they know what I need. And if you tell people what you need, they will help you. That's their job. They were elected to help you get the things that you need for your city. So, you know, you have to be brave, and you have to get out there, and you have to participate. In the past, I remember showing up to a West Plains Chamber event, and one of our mayors was the keynote speaker and didn't show up. I was so embarrassed. And, you know, and so I think making it a priority. So when I showed up, I said, you know, I don't have all this brag list, I have a big to-do list, but my job is to get to know you and to complement the work you do and to be a partner in this region.
Thank
so
you.
We need each other.
If we could bring a big crystal ball in here right now to take a look down the road, what is one measurable benchmark, something that we could look back on in 2 years that you would use to judge your own progress as mayor? Ms. Cooper?
My benchmark, number one, is going to be, what is the pulse of the community? And I'll tell you that the pulse of the community is good. You know, it might be a little tense right now. We have a little mayor's race going on, but at the end of the day, we're neighbors. I don't have any enemies. You're not my enemy. You're my friends. And my job is to make sure that this is a thriving, beautiful community, that you and your families love to live here, that your kids will want to come back and visit you, and that they're going to have fond memories of this is where we grew up. For me, the benchmarks are, did I do what I said I was going to do? those first 10 things that I mentioned, that people said, these are the 10 things that matter to us. I said, you know, those are the 10 things that matter to me too. I think we can do something here. And so my benchmark is, have I delivered on those 10 things? Is public safety better? It is. So we have we still have 24/7. Talk to Sheriff Knowles. We have 24/7. When that guy showed up here and he meant to ambush our fire department, our firemen, our cops were there right on their heels 2 minutes later, and they disrupted that. And then he went and he did a home invasion, and the police were right there. And then he went up on the hill and he killed somebody, and the police were right there. That was at midnight. They were there in 2 minutes at midnight. We have 24/7. Law enforcement love to hang out in Medical Lake. We want to revitalize our police department down there so it's a nicer place for them to come and write their reports and dispatch, because we are central to the West Plains spur here, and that's what they cover at night. But the sheriff was adamant. He's like, who is saying we don't have 24-hour coverage? The other thing is law enforcement officers love to be here. Before they hated to be here. Now we have 2 dedicated officers. They're doing community policing work. All the business owners know their name and they know ours, and they're available. So I'm just saying that they're doing a great community policing work, and we have better public safety than we've ever had. And I just couldn't be more proud of that.
Mr. Higgins, what is one measurable benchmark, something that we could look back on in 2 years, that you would use to judge your own progress as mayor?
Well, first of all, when I leave this earth, I hope everybody realizes that I did everything as the mayor or as a citizen that I could do for this community. I mean, I've been the mayor, I worked on the school board, I worked with the school district, Eastern State Hospital. I've always cared about people. And as long as when I leave, everybody will not have a bad thing to say that I didn't do what I could do for the city of Medical Lake.
Thank you. What leadership quality do you bring that you believe sets you apart in this race, and how will it directly benefit Medical Lake residents? Mr. Higgins.
Well, first of all, I'm not somebody that's going to sit up here and beat my chest about how great I am. I joined the Army. I spent 3 years in the military. I spent 2 years in Vietnam. As soon as I got out of the military, I went to work at Lakeland Village for 2 years at Eastern State Hospital, working as a forensic therapist and into the personnel department. While I was at Eastern State, I was the president of the union up there. When I left work there, when I retired, I went to work for a mental health facility as an HR person. I left when I spent 3 years there, and then I went to work for the high school. And I was a paraeducator up there for 10 years, coaching for 25 in the school district. Everything I do in the city of Medical Lake, and my family and I, we do a lot that nobody knows about, nobody brags about. So, again, I'm not the person you want to be mayor if you want somebody that's going to sit up here and tell you what you want to hear. That's not me. You can come talk to me, and I may not agree with you, but I'll do what I can to help you. And that's how I am. But you're not going to see me up here. Everything's about me. Period. It's not about me, it's about you.
Ms. Cooper, what leadership quality do you bring that you believe sets you apart in this race, and how will it directly benefit Medical Lake residents?
So I'm a public servant at heart. I spent 25 years in public service, managing a court. I set up statewide programs that help people in rehabilitation, trauma-informed care, addiction, domestic violence, helping families recover and get back together. And I set up programs and things like that that were beneficial to the community. I don't say all these things to beat my chest and say, look at me, because anyone who knows me knows that I'm not that person. But I'm telling you that today because you need to know who your mayor is. You need to know how hard I work. I have not had maybe 2 days off in the last 2 years because of the fire recovery work, because I care about people. I did 6 years humanitarian work in Uganda and Rwanda after the genocide and after the war drove people out, and there were 2 million people in displacement camps. I raised money, I took teams, we resettled 37 villages in those 6 years. And we love people. That's what we do. We love people. When people say, I love Medical Lake, oh, I just love Medical Lake. No, you don't. You love what Medical Lake does for you. You know what I love? I love you. And I don't have to get a pat on the back. This is not a fun job. I work 60 hours a week. I always have, I always will. That's who I am. You couldn't stop me. If I didn't do this, I'll be doing 60 hours doing something else, because that's just, I have one life to give. I chose to give it to you. You know, if that time is up, it's okay. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I've done such a good job of leadership. What my strongest leadership qualities, I'm decisive, I'm analytical, I know what I believe the community wants, and I know how to deliver, and I'm not afraid to go get it.
Thank you. Wrapping up with just a couple of questions. First one, pretty important, I think. What do you see as the single most important concern facing Medical Lake today? And what is your plan to address it in your first year in office? Ms. Cooper?
Boy, there's a lot. The single most important concern for this city, if there was just one. Boy, there's so many. I have a capital improvement list with 30 things on it. We have 26 lines of effort that we're working on right now. I have state legislative things and laws that need to be changed to protect my community. So I see it as a whole, and I'm just addressing things as a whole. And I can't really say, well, here's one thing. I think economic development and continuing to build the park and rec programs, keeping our budget balanced. And I think the most important thing to me is that everything in this city stays balanced, that we have a balance of poor and middle class and wealthy people. That's a healthy community. I talked to the mayor of Leavenworth, and he said, yeah, we are so focused on business that we drove out our community, and now there's no houses, and basically people got priced out of paradise. We must maintain a balance. That's why we need small businesses. We need to keep things, you know, manageable and balanced so that everything is balanced. We have a balanced demographic. Our average age is 36 years old. We have a third young, a third, you know, middle-aged, and a third that are elderly. We have a beautiful thing here, and we really have to work hard to maintain a balance. So I think that was probably my most important thing. If I had to pick one, it'd be that when I look at everything, I take a balanced approach and make sure it's funded, sustainable, and that it's serving the people what they want, as staying connected to the community.
Mr. Higgins, what do you see as the single most important concern facing Medical Lake today? And what is your plan to address it during your first year in office?
Well, financially stable would be the main thing, because everything kind of runs off the city. If you're financially stable, the 12 years I was in office, we balanced the budget 12 times. We passed every audit. All that had to do, luckily we had a good council, we had good people who work for the city. So same thing, if I was re-elected, the same thing would occur. The balanced budget, make sure Medical Lake receives what we need. We have a good relationship with Fairchild Air Force Base, the school district, Spokane County. All that plays a part in how the city survives.
Thank you. So just before we move to our closing statements, I have one last question, and you each only get 1 minute instead of 2 to kind of talk about yourself for a moment. But what are you most proud of, since you both served as mayor here? What are you most proud of from your time of service as mayor? Mr. Higgins?
Just the way the city of Medical Lake has always been. It's been a great place for people to raise their kids. Hope it continues to be that. Like I said, I've been here most of my life. I've never seen a better town than Medical Lake. As soon as I got out of the Army, I came right back here. Like I said, I've been the mayor, I've worked for the school district. Everything I do is to help or to make Medical Lake a better place.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, what are you most proud of from your time of service as mayor?
The thing I'm most proud of is that I looked at those 10 things and I worked hard to address all of those 10 things that were on your mind. I couldn't have worked any harder. I couldn't have put any more time in than I have. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done. I brought the staff together in a way that they're so cohesive. They love and respect one another. They work together like a machine and all smiling. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that people are happy to work here. We're delivering on what concerns you. And if you elect me again, I'll still keep working that hard.
Thank you. Well, thank you both for sharing your time, your perspective, and your vision for the future of Medical Lake. We appreciate your willingness to engage in this important conversation. I also want to thank our hosts, standing in the back, the West Plains Stream Community Magazine, the volunteers who made tonight possible, and most importantly, you, the residents who are both here and tuning in online, and for caring about the direction of this community. It's very evident. There was a comment made to me earlier by a person who attends these types of meetings in other communities nearby, and we have a bigger turnout here than those other two communities combined. So that's a testament to you and your willingness to love one another and to grow, and that's certainly appreciated. As a reminder, your voice matters most through your vote. Please be sure to participate in the upcoming election and encourage your friends and neighbors to do the same. So on behalf of everyone involved, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a safe evening, and let's continue to work together for the future of Medical Lake.
Yes.
That was the, I just wanted to see what your response was.
Check and see if you're listening.
We do.
Drive safe.
We do have time for closing statements if you'd like to. That was your, okay, wait a second. We couldn't hear your closing statement.
Thanks for coming. Drive safe going home, and make sure, like you said, get out to vote. It doesn't matter if you vote for me or vote for Terry, but just please get out and vote.
Thank you. And my apologies, I'm glad you're keeping me accountable, so thank you both.
I'm just going to say basically the same. So appreciate the turnout. Even during the whole Gray Road fire, when we would have meetings, we'd have just a room full of people. You know, at the beginning, we would have almost 100 people in the room. You go to the other communities impacted, and they'd have a handful, and they were all angry. We weren't like that. And so I'm really proud of you, and thanks for, enduring. I took the soft chair, you have the hard chairs. So have a good night. Thanks again for coming. And again, if you're not registered to vote, please do so. Vote your conscience, and thanks again for being here.